Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. It's pretty safe to say that the next movie in our 24-hour salute to Elizabeth Taylor is the riskiest movie that Elizabeth ever made, but has been proven time and time again taking a big risk often leads to a big reward when Academy Awards are handed out. And for Elizabeth, her risk in this instance did lead to Oscar Gold, again. The film is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, an adaptation of a blistering and very angry Broadway play by Edward Albee. And when word got out that Albee's play was going to be turned into a movie, the first thing most people asked was, how can it be? That's because it was the 60s. The Hollywood production code was still in effect, and Albee's play is basically a bitter war of words between a burned-out teacher and his foul-mouthed wife, full of the kind of adult language that wasn't allowed in movies at that time. But that shockwave was minuscule compared to the one which greeted the news that the middle-aged, boozy wife from hell in the movie was going to be played by gorgeous, glamorous 33-year-old Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, that was so far from anything Elizabeth had ever attempted before, the casting seemed ludicrous. But as she had done often before, as when she worked with people like Spencer Tracy and George Stevens, Elizabeth more than rose to the occasion, helped in no small measure by the fact that her director was Mike Nichols and Richard Burton was her co-star. The film was a triumph for everybody. It brought Elizabeth that second Oscar. And when you watch this movie, imagine what it must have felt like to moviegoers in 1966 who were used to seeing a glamorous Elizabeth Taylor in a slip trying to seduce Paul Newman, or riding on a barge as Cleopatra, or as in her previous film, looking gorgeous on a beach in California in the movie The Sandpiper. Here's an entirely different Elizabeth Taylor in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? This was actually only the second film for Sandy Dennis, who played Honey. She'd made her big screen debut in a small part 5 years earlier in Splendor in the Grass as one of Natalie Wood's high school chums. And you can see her in that film here on TCM, by the way. If you'd like to find out the next time we're going to air it, log on to our website, tcm.com, and search our online programming guide. And by the way, it said the man who wrote Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Edward Albee, really wanted Martha and George in this film to be played by Bette Davis and Henry Fonda. Betty and Henry were keen to do it too, but in the mid-1960s, anybody who could get Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton to sign on to do anything jumped at the chance. They were guaranteed box office names back then. No one more famous at the time than the Burtons. Up next, another film teaming Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, this one made before they were married, based on an incident in the life of another famous pair of actors.